Welcome back, Pokemon trainers. We are here for top 4 at the Sheffield Regional Championships 2018. We've had some exciting top 8 games so far. We're now here in top 4. But one thing just to mention as well before we do is something non-Pokemon related, but we are here in the UK, we're here in Sheffield, and it's Father's Day today here in the UK. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. There's lots of them who bring all their kids to Pokemon and run events and everything. And you know, happy Father's Day, Papa Chromie. I know you're watching, so hi.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, so just want to say that to all the, you know, Pokemon papas out there.
Exactly. So with that out of the way now, I hope you're ready now for the semi-finals. So yeah, get hype in chat, get excited.
We've got
it's gonna be really good. Yeah. So again, like this kind of matchup, Aurelien, the new guy, but he keeps on winning. He just keeps on winning. And then we got Lee. Like that's, I think, your prime definition of a veteran for sure.
100%. But I was just speaking to them now while we were setting up the stream. This is their first brick.
Yeah.
That's something Barish and I were talking about before. It's the elusive trophy that you want to be able to take, put it up on your mantelpiece, in a cabinet. And Lee doesn't have any, Aurelien doesn't have any. It's their first one. And they're both so excited to be here in top 4 for the chance now to get into that grand final.
Yeah, to get even more prize money, to get even more CP. So of course you wanna go on. Of course you wanna call yourself the winner of the Sheffield Regional Championships. Especially because this is the last regional of the year, of the season at least. So yeah, you want to go into the books as the winner of that regional for sure.
100%. You've made it all the way here. You've fought through a grueling day in the heat with 8 Swiss rounds yesterday, and you're here now in top 4. You've done top 8. It's now all about the next game, and we've got it here ready for you to recap on the teams. Lee has got the Metagross, the Tyranitar, Tapu Fini, Incineroar, Thundurus, and the Togekiss, whereas Aurelien has got that Cresselia, Salamence, Incineroar, Amoonguss, Snorlax, and Tapu Koko.
Yeah, so interesting matchup there. We see like a double redirection that both players have. We see the Togekiss on Lee's side, and we see the Amoonguss on Aurelien's side. They also both have Incineroar, but they kind of have different setup options. Lee has the setup options with his Calm Mind Fini, and potentially with his Tyranitar, which we haven't seen yet, but it could carry something like Dragon Dance.
Very true.
And with Aurelien, we saw that his Salamence also carries Dragon Dance, and of course he has the setup in his Snorlax with the Belly Drum support. So that's kind of an interesting matchup there. I think Cresselia is going to be really big for Aurelien again. We saw that in like his last sets, like just the helping hand support, the Icy Wind support.
So well.
Yeah, and it works really well with the Salamence and Tapu Koko next to it. But it could be interesting. Maybe this is the game that actually goes for that Snorlax setup. Because he didn't use that a lot on stream yet.
He didn't reveal it until very, very late into his previous set, where we didn't know what the fourth move was.
Right.
And then it really was yesterday on Swiss. It was in that last crucial moment. It hit the belly drum. But yeah, that Cresselia. I think Cresselia has been the Pokemon of the tournament. It's done so well for all the players who have decided to bring it. But he does have to watch out for what Lee's going to be bringing as well. He's got that Incineroar pressure. Yeah,
but if I look at Lee's team, like a trick from Snorlax would be actually pretty good against that team. Lee, of course, has his options. He can redirect stuff with Togekiss. And he's got his Fake Out support from Incineroar, Intimidate as well, so he's got his options, but I wouldn't be surprised if Aurelien maybe tries to go with his Snorlax mode here in Game 1.
Yeah, that's very true. These players, they're ready, they want to get into this top 4 game. They're fighting out for so much on the line here. So let's have a little look what these players have opted to bring, which Pokemon they have picked to be by their side. For Aurelien, it's going to be Snorlax and Incineroar. Lee also picking the Fire Cat Incineroar paired up with Tapu Fini.
Yeah, so it's going to be important whose Incineroar is going to be faster here, because if Aurelien's is faster, he has the option to just fake out the Incineroar on Lee's side, and it looks like that is the case. And I think we saw Lee's moveset on Fini already, which is Muddy Water, Moonblast, Calm Mind, and Protect. So it's not really threatening the Snorlax at the moment. So if you're Aurelien, this is kind of a good opportunity to go for that fake out into the other Incineroar and maybe go for a Belly Drum.
Very true.
The one scary part about that is though, it's always possible that this Incineroar is speed tying. And if he now won like the Intimidate speed tie, he could definitely lose, for example, the Fake Out speed tie. But you gotta assume that they're trained differently, so you gotta assume that Aurelien's is just naturally faster than Lee's Incineroar.
Well, Aurelien's one has won, whether it's a speed tie or just outsped, gone into the Incineroar that has flinched, so we believe that was going for a fake out as well. Tapu Fini going to take to the waves, goes for the Muddy Water, connecting on both these Pokemon. Incineroar not appreciating it, Snorlax taking it like a champ, but Incineroar also gets the accuracy job. Snorlax does click the belly drum, wants to go straight on the offensive for Aurelien here, setting up in turn 1. Going to have its berry as well, so it can regain a lot of its health here. You know, something Lee would have probably wanted to do is try and knock off that berry before he's able to utilize it, but nope, he's eaten this Figgy Berry and he is now a dominant threat here.
Yeah, so Lee going for the Muddy Water doesn't do a whole lot. Of course, the Incineroar is assault fast and the Snorlax is just so especially bulky. And if you're Aurelien, the way he's playing is right now, I wouldn't be surprised if he has Amoonguss in the back. So I wouldn't be surprised if he now switches out Incineroar, goes to Mungus, and then has that redirection support as well, because these Muddy Waters from Finny, they're not doing a lot of damage. He still has to worry about maybe potential accuracy drops, of course, but I think if he gets in that redirection, he's going to be in a really good spot. That's Snorlax at +6 attack at the moment.
Very true. Once Snorlax is boosted up, you cannot ignore that threat. It's able to just sort of go through your team, whether it's just with return or even sometimes high horsepower. We've even seen Snorlax sometimes pack Rock Slide, but that is not the case for Aurelien Snorlax here. He is bringing in that Amoonguss, as you have mentioned, Rob, so we can bring it in, start doing some redirection and allowing the Snorlax to start firing off these attacks. Tapu Fini fearful of taking an attack from Snorlax and goes for a protect as Incineroar decides he also wants to get out of there, remove himself from the threat, and goes for a U-turn into the switch in Amoonguss. Interestingly enough, though, one thing Lee doesn't have to worry about too much at the moment is any spores coming out from Amoonguss. Misty Terrain from Tapu Fini is helping him out there, but he is now bringing in his Metagross to the field.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Which target is the Snorlax going to go for right now? And it looks like went for the Incineroar, and that's still going to do a lot of damage to this Metagross. It takes it under half here. So at least I think it's one of the only Pokemon that Lee has that can really take this return.
Yeah.
Next to Tyranitar probably. But yeah, Aurelien is still in a really good position. He still has that Amoonguss at almost full health. He can just redirect all of these attacks that Lee is throwing out, and the Tapu Fini already protected. So it's pretty free slot to just go for a return onto that slot. And whatever switches in, it's not going to be able to take this return at all.
No, it's very true. There's not much that can counter Snorlax's return. Like you were saying, Metagross is probably one of the only Pokemon that really can, unless of course you're a ghost or something like that. But unfortunately, Lee is not bringing any of those particular Pokemon. You can see he's taking his time as well here, really trying to be focused to see how he's going to play around this Snorlax. I love as well seeing Snorlax being able to set up without Mimikyu, you know? Yeah,
definitely. And Amoonguss is just such a good support for it. And Aurelien's team, we can see now what the support mode looks like, with the fake out pressure, with the redirection pressure as well.
Well, that's what he's gone for, clicking that Rage Powder button. Sometimes you see Mimikyu with the Z Destiny Bomb, but you don't need that when you've got Amoonguss. Going for the Iron Head, though, drawing in from that Rage Power, going to take it down to 50%, as Tapu Fini bypasses the Rage Powder entirely by going for a Muddy Water. Getting an accuracy drop here on the Snorlax would be a way to stop its attacks from doing any damage, but no effects coming out here. Return instead coming from Snorlax into Tapu Fini will easily pick up the KO here, and Lee will be down to 3 Pokemon in this game. Yeah,
that's a big KO for Aurelien there, and yeah, Lee's really struggling with this combination of Snorlax and Amoonguss now. At least Amoonguss should be in Iron Head range from another Iron Head, but then again, he can just switch in his Incineroar, get another fake out pressure, and just this way that Aurelien is playing his Snorlax, he took almost no damage. He only took he took 2 Muddy Waters, and it's still at so much attack, and you see Lee bring out his Incineroar with his own fake out pressure. But I think this just allows Aurelien to have the opportunity to switch out into your own Incineroar and then have your own fake out pressure. And we know that most of, I think we saw all the moves on Lee's Incineroar as well, so it's not carrying Protect. So that's, again, then afterwards, a really good target for Snorlax. So I'm really not sure what's Lee's plan is here and how he's going to deal with the Snorlax at this point.
Of course, if you're Aurelien, you just want to protect this Snorlax. Do everything you can to make sure that it doesn't get KO'd, doesn't lose its boost in any way, and making sure that you can get it to wreck through Lee Provost's team. And if you're Lee, you've got to come up with a way to get around this. And Snorlax going for the protect doesn't want to take the fake out from this Incineroar. Amoonguss doesn't either. It just goes for a protect, just burning this fake out possibility. As Metagross goes for a Stomping Tantrum, this goes into that Amoonguss as Incineroar goes for a U-turn. So maybe thinking that the Incineroar was coming in there, and trying to cover that switch. Yeah,
so Lee was reading into that, which I thought was also, it was kind of an obvious play for Aurelien to do. So Lee definitely reading into that, making sure that he doesn't get that free switch into the Incineroar. But Aurelien instead just playing it safe, just double protecting, scouting out what's happening. And of course now he can redirect the Iron Head. And Snorlax should be able to take anything that this Incineroar throws at it and just retaliate with a return. So Lee's in a really tough position here, and he kind of has to choose, like, am I going to sacrifice my Incineroar, or am I going to sacrifice something that's in the back?
Well, he's going to protect the Metagross for this turn as Amoonguss goes for a Rage Powder. Hasn't protected on his Incineroar, so you can imagine it's going for either some sort of offensive move or just going for the U-turn to try and switch it up. Maybe bring Intimidate back to just try and whittle down something on this Snorlax. But instead, it's actually going to proc the Berry on Amoonguss, going to give it a lot more health, so it's still in a position where it can just start using Rage Powder. There's no taunt or anything here to shut down this Amoonguss. It's safe to keep doing the redirection thing that it wants to do.
Yeah, interesting play from Lee there, because now but he has Tyranitar in the back, so that should be able to take a return. So that's a decent switching for Lee there. And yeah, one of his options right now might just be to hope that he's going to get a lot of Rock Slide finishes. Because Tyranitar should be able to take this return here.
Yeah, it takes it down just above 50% as well, so he knows he's potentially got another return in there that he can take, and he's just brought that Sand as well. That's going to chip away at some of Aurelien's team.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that he already procced the Berry on Amoonguss though. But on the other hand, yeah, he can still win this game now with Tyranitar, with the Rock Slide potential. But Lee has really got to focus on what kind of switches Aurelien is going to make. Is he now going to predict the switching into Incineroar? And so is he going to Stomping Tantrum the Amoonguss again? Or is he just going to go for Iron Head again? But I think at this point you're really relying on these Rock Slide flinches from Tyranitar because Snorlax is still at so much health. One Rock Slide is never going to do the trick, and Amoonguss is going to go for Redirection here.
Yeah, so if you go for Rock Slide, you're going to bypass that Redirection that Rage Powder has done. Metagross going for the Iron Head here into Amoonguss, going to take it down into the yellow as Tyranitar goes for Rock Slide, avoids the Amoonguss, however, but critically will hit that Snorlax and is going for a flinch. Takes it down to below 50%. There is no more berry, but Snorlax is able to break free, goes for High Horsepower into Metagross and picks up the KO. So Lee losing his Mega Metagross, his Mega Evolution here, and is down to his last 2 remaining Pokemon.
Yeah, kind of risky from Aurelien there to go for High Horsepower because we saw how much damage Return already did. So I'm pretty sure that another Return should have been able to pick up the KO there. He just tried to make things sure, and High Horsepower is definitely going to pick up the KO, but of course that has a chance to miss. And with the Rock Slide flinch chance as well, odds were a little bit shaky. But this Snorlax pulls through here, and yeah, he just puts Lee in a position where he only has 2 Pokemon remaining, and Aurelien still has 4 Pokemon left. And he has Intimidate in the back as well against these 2 physical type attackers. So if you're Lee, it's a really tough position at the moment.
It certainly is, and if you're going to be clicking Rock Slides with that Tyranitar, you need them to not only try and get flinches, but you need them to be accurate. And we saw it avoid that Amoonguss. Potentially, it could have maybe got some sort of roll on it, got it a little bit closer to being KO'd this next turn. And it's just going to come down now to whether Lee can find a way to shut down the Snorlax, or is he going to have to start thinking ahead for game 2. But Tyranitar, I think it heard us, has gone accurate this time, has connected on both Pokemon, still no KOs though, but Incineroar able to get the knockoff into that Amoonguss, picks up the KO, so Aurelien's Amoonguss, no more Rage Powdering from you, as Snorlax does flinch, so Lee finally getting the kind of play that he wants from this Tyranitar. Yeah,
so he finally gets the flinch. Aurelien doesn't look too worried yet, so I'm assuming that he has something in the back that can take care of either of these 2 Pokemon. Preferably something like Tapu Koko, because we saw that it had the Z move.
Yes.
And Tyranitar already took a lot of damage, so it should be, both these Pokemon should be in range for potential Gigavolt Havoc. So yeah, Aurelien kind of has to pick a target and
just go down with it with the
exactly.
Gigavolt.
And I think if you're Aurelien, you probably want to target down this Incineroar, because we've seen that it didn't have Protect.
Yes.
I think we saw already that it has a Berry as well. And with this little chip damage that it already took, it's probably not going to be able to live a Gigavolt Havoc. And then it's Tyranitar against the world, and he's going to need a lot of Rock Slide flinches in order to get win this game then.
He really does, and as well, like with the Sand, that's getting the special defense buff for Tyranitar at the moment. That's going to help him out a little bit against Tapu Koko, but only while the Sand is still up, and you know, it's not going to help him out really against this Gigavolt Havoc if that's exactly the target that Tapu Koko is going for. Aurelien clicking in the Gigavolt Havoc, going to be targeting down in electric terrain. Who do you think it's going into?
I assume this is going into the Incineroar, because the Tyranitar, the thing is, like, he might be afraid of a Dragon Dance, but if he Dragon Dances, then Snorlax is just going to be able to take out the Tyranitar here. So he kind of needs to click Rock Slide, which means that Tapu Koko will still be faster next turn, and a single target Dazzling Gleam will still do a lot of damage. And yeah, so we see his Rock Slide from this Tyranitar.
Going for the Rock Slide. It hits again though, Tyranitar kind of being a little bit more accurate. Picks up the KO on Snorlax, so a relief for Lee that he's got that off the field, but it might be too little too late. You can see Lee shaking his head there a little bit. Tapu Koko going to take a little bit of chip damage as well, but I don't think it's going to be enough for Lee to take this game 1.
No. Yeah, we'll see what Aurelien has in the back. He's not going to reveal his last Pokemon. Oh wait, Tapu Koko is of course his last Pokemon. So now he only has Incineroar and Tapu Koko left. Yeah, but this Tyranitar, it kind of needs to get up a Dragon Dance in order to start flinching this Tapu Koko, but it can't because we saw the low kick on Incineroar, so it really can't afford to let this Incineroar take out any kind of attack. And we saw on the screen right now as well, there's only 1 turn of Sand remaining, so it needs to protect now from this potential Thunderbolt or Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah, it needs to just sort of burn the Fake Out there. It was such an obvious play, just Fake Out, get some damage across, easily done. Tyranitar going for the Protect. The Sandstorm has subsided though, so this Dazzling Gleam is just going to be doing so much damage. No more Sand.
Yeah, so it's kind of the awkward position. Like on the one hand you want Sand, on the other hand you need to protect from the Fake Out and the attack on that turn. So Dazzling Gleam might be able to just pick up the KO here. It's single target, there's no Sand, and Tyranitar does go down. Yeah,
so Aurelien here taking game 1 in top 4. Lee obviously a little bit disappointed from that, but Aurelien just played it so masterfully. He managed to shut down Lee constantly from turn 1. Having the threat of that Snorlax on the field meant that Lee couldn't try and sort of execute his own strategy. He had to constantly play around Aurelien Snorlax.
Yeah, and I think Lee, we saw, he really struggled to put damage onto that Snorlax, especially with the redirection, because the only spread type attacks he has are Rock Slide and Muddy Water. And he didn't lead the Tyranitar, so he couldn't really start putting off damage with Rock Slide. And of course, if you would lead your Tyranitar, Aurelien has the potential to go for the double Intimidate as well. So it's not really the safest bet to put damage on Snorlax either. And he was really relying on a lot of these flinches, which he only got one. If he got more, maybe it would have been different. But that's of course not really the game plan that you want to go for, especially when it's now a game 2, and you really need to win the game 2 in order to still have a chance to go into the finals here.
100%, and we saw him go for the Muddy Water as well. You mentioned it's one of his only sort of spread moves that he's got. He hit that twice on Snorlax, no accuracy drops, got one on the Incineroar, but if he'd maybe got those accuracy drops on the Snorlax, it could have been a very, very different game.
Yeah, and I'm sure Aurelien would be sweating then, because that's always so scary.
You always panic.
You're finally happy that you set up your Snorlax, and then Muddy Water accuracy drops, and you're like, oh god. Because you can't really afford to switch it out either. You just set up, you just spend your entire resources trying to boost up your Snorlax. So you're basically already all in, and then you get these accuracy drops. So, but yeah, Lee really has to figure out a different plan, because he can't rely on those things.
What do you think he's going to do to counter Snorlax?
Yeah, it's going to be really tricky, and I think he tried a little bit as well. He tried to get like the Incineroar switch in, catch that off guard. But one of the things I maybe want to see is maybe just a Metagross lead, because with the Clear Body, he's not immediately affected by this Intimidate.
That's true.
So that could help him a little bit. And one of the other things that could maybe help is maybe some redirection with Togekiss. Then if you're really in trouble, you can always go for Air Slash flinches, which is more likely to happen than Rock Slide.
That
so
is very true.
he has some options, but yeah, I think Aurelien's just going to go with the same thing. It worked out really well for him game 1. And if I just look at Lee's team, there's no clear way that he has to stop Snorlax. So I would be surprised if Aurelien changes things up here.
Very true. And we saw if he has the faster fake out with that Incineroar, there's no way for Lee to potentially use a fake out of his own. If he leads with it. So Aurelien could very well be bringing that Snorlax once again, but he's not.
No,
potentially
he's change
it could be in the back, but we'll have to find out. That classic combination at the moment of Incineroar and Tapu Koko is going to face down Lee's Metagross and Incineroar. So you wanted to see the Metagross straight away, Rob. That's exactly what you've got.
Yeah, so Lee was definitely preparing for the Snorlax lead, but instead the Metagross is facing a Tapu Koko and Incineroar, so it doesn't really like the position it's in at the moment at all. So Aurelien's kind of adapting again, thinking, okay, Lee's probably going to change this up. Well, I should change it up then as well. And it works out really well for him. Tapu Koko's in a good spot to just go for a fake out, go for a Volt Switch, change up your position. But on the other hand, if you Volt Switch out, then Incineroar is going to take a lot of damage from a potential Stomping Tantrum. And it all kind of depends what Aurelien has in the deck now. Because maybe this time he went with his Salamence mode.
It would be nice to see Salamence maybe jump into the fray, get some Intimidates off onto the Lee's Pokemon, particularly once the Mega Metagross has Mega Evolved. Not going to have Clear Body, he can start taking his Intimidates, and if Aurelien is able to set up the Dragon Dance on that Salamence, he's going to be in such a good position to just start picking up some more KOs with return. But there's always going to be the threat of the Snorlax.
Definitely. That's kind of also the beauty of Volt Switch, because you kind of go by this Clear Body, because first you Mega Evolve, then you Volt Switch, and then you get an Intimidate, instead of the other way around, where Clear Body kind of stops your switch-ins from activating an Intimidate.
Well, Tapu Finn's jumped into the fray, going to get rid of the electric terrain and maybe negate some of the damage that a Gigavolt Havoc could do coming out from this Tapu Koko. Incineroar goes straight for a fake out though into the protecting Metagross, and Tapu Koko goes for a Thunderbolt, doesn't want to use its Z move straight away, but picks up Tapu Fini on the switch end, taking it down to only 62 hit points.
That's a lot of damage on Tapu Fini. Yeah, it's kind of, if you look at Lee's team as well, like we saw him didn't bring the Thunderous in game 1, which is basically his only. Well, not electric resist, because it basically takes electric attack and heals itself again. But all the other Pokemon don't really want to take those electric type of attacks at all. And we see Tapu Fini, it took so much damage from a Thunderbolt, and it should be in Volt Switch range now. But if you're Aurelien, you probably just want to Volt Switch this Metagross, because you don't want to take a Stomping Tantrum in that slot at all. And you really need Tapu Koko for the rest of this matchup, because I think it's one of the most important Pokemon that he has here. It
really is, particularly if he keeps that Gigavolt Havoc sort of safe and utilizes it at a better point later in the game where he can maybe just pick up that crucial KO to sway it into his way. But Lee here, you can see he's really taking his time. He's probably going through his mind about all the different options. I don't even know if he's timed out.
Did he just time out? Yeah. Oh, we see the reaction from Lee, and he timed out. And it looks like he's not even Mega Evolving his Metagross.
No, it's a Protect straight away from the Tapu Fini, and Metagross goes for Protect as well.
Oh, but he gets it.
He does get it. Wow. I mean, look at the relief on Lee's face there. Tapu Koko going for the Volt Switch. Aurelien not too impressed with this. The luck on Lee's side here with those Protects. Saving Lee from this term. He's a player who always utilizes all the time anyway, but that time it could really have cost him.
Yeah, that was really close. I really thought that he messed up there, but he got a double protect, which he really needed, because otherwise it's just a wasted turn and a lot of chip damage on your Metagross, which would put it in Gigavolt Havoc range, which also makes a lot of sense why Aurelien's trying to Volt Switch that slot. just put some chip damage on all these Pokemon, and then basically at some point Lee's gonna have no switches to this Gigavolt anymore. So I'm assuming Aurelien's just gonna go for the same play again.
Yeah, Lee though, this time picking his moves well within his time frame and gets rid of Tapu Fini for Incineroar. So getting Intimidate back onto the opposing Incineroar here. Both the kiddies on the field here as Metagross this time will Mega Evolve. He remembers to click the button, has time to lock this in, and this big tough claw Pokemon is going to be out in the field, applying a little bit of pressure now with Heavy Slam. I'm sorry, no, with Iron Head onto Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko goes for the Volt Switch, though this time gets it off. There are no protects. This time Lee has gone on the offensive a little bit more, and he will be able to switch that out to get Electric Terrain back onto the field for a later day. That's something he wants to fire off his Gigawatt Havoc in. You don't really want to do it in another Alolan Guardians terrain. You want it in your own so that you can get the boost from it. But Icy Salamence here, that's a Pokemon you wanted to see here, Rob.
Yeah, and especially with the Volt Switch, now the Metagross is going to be intimidated, and he went for a Stomach Tantrum into the Incineroar, so that shouldn't do that much damage anymore. Takes it about half. And this Flare Blades at -2 should also not be doing too much damage to this Metagross.
That's true. The Intimidates here are really going to pay off, meaning the Metagross is easily able to take this Flare Blades, and Incineroar probably taking a good chunk in recoil there as well.
Yeah, but on the other hand, now this Salamence is actually in a decent position to maybe try to set up a Dragon Dance, because if you're Metagross, you probably want to get rid of this Incineroar. So you might just go for the Stomping Tantrum, which could give Aurelien the opportunity to set up this Salamence, and maybe to try to start sweeping here. But you've really got to be worried, of course, as well on a potential Ice Punch from this Metagross.
Very true. The Ice Punch would do so much damage to this opposing Salamence. But Cresselia is going to jump in, so Aurelien revealing this is the Pokemon he has brought into the back. Salamence, however, no Dragon Dance, no worrying about Ice Punches. It's just going to go straight for a Protect, as Ice Punch does come out from that Metagross. The Incineroar, however, goes for a U-turn, going to target into that Cresselia, going to do a little bit of chip damage, switch out, bring Intimidate for another day.
Yeah, so yeah, we're going to see what maybe we're going to see now. At least final Pokemon is here. I think at this point you really hope that it's your Tyranitar, because it's looking really good against this Salamence and this Cresselia. This might be a good opportunity to maybe try to set up as well.
Yes, he could potentially be setting up a Dragon Dance of his own with his Tyranitar. As of yet, we really haven't seen too much from it other than Rock Slide.
Yeah, and on the other hand, we already saw that Salamence protected, so a potential Ice Punch into that slot, as well as going for a Rock Slide, should be able to pick up the Salamence. We saw that Incineroar didn't have to bury, it has its Salt Fest, so it also should be able to pick up switching from the Incineroar. So that kind of that pressures Aurelien a lot, and this Cresselia was doing a lot of work for him in the earlier games, but in this set, it's not looking that good against Metagross and his Tyranitar, because it's basically doing no damage to those two.
And we also don't know the item on this Tyranitar as of yet. Don't believe it's going to be the Mega Evolution, seeing as it's got its partner buddy Metagross there, and they'd be quite an odd dual combination, I think, to run in your team. But we have seen Tyranitar with something like a weakness policy before, so we have yet to have that revealed, and that could be crucial if Lee wants to conserve that information and reveal it at a later point to maybe sort of sweep through and get a victory here in this game. But we're not going to find out, as Incineroar has jumped into where Tyranitar was and wants to fire off an Intimidate against the opposing Salamence, just in case it wants to get a cheeky Dragon Dance. It's going to have something to say about that regarding its attack stat, but Mega Salamence is now on the field, here ready to maybe go for damage or go for a Dragon Dance, but no, it's going to be a damage move, I am assuming, seeing as Helping Hand has come out from Cresselia, and it goes for an Earthquake.
Ooh, how much is this going to do to this Metagross with Helping Hand boosted? The Salamence is at -1, but neutral. It's going to be neutral with the Helping Hand, but Metagross is able to take that.
It does still a good amount of damage, really whittling down the HP of both of Lee's Pokemon here. Metagross still able to survive. Incineroar now able to get its berry though, so it has got a little bit of health rejuvenated as Metagross is able to go for the Ice Punch. This connects into Salamence, does a huge amount of damage, but again, still doesn't pick up the KO, but Sandstorm might help it out in the next couple of turns.
Yeah, so at first I was like, okay, I'm not really sure why Lee's going to switch out his Tyranitar here, but he needed that Intimidate in order to lift the Helping Hand Earthquake. Even though Tyranitar was in a really good spot, maybe I would have liked to see Lee do the other way around. Maybe just go for a Rock Slide, because now Metagross took a lot of damage, and you kind of need Metagross in the back to deal with this Cresselia as well. And this Incineroar already ate his berry, and at some point I think he's starting to lose resources here, and he really needs to make sure that he keeps the right Pokemon in the back in order to take care of this game.
No, exactly. You need to think of a way to shut down this Cresselia as well. We've seen it so much throughout this tournament. Cresselia is a Pokemon that has just sat on the field, Click Moonlight, sort of stalled the way things out and just gone Icy Wind after Icy Wind. But we sort of mentioned Lee has Incineroar. He also has that Tyranitar in the back, so he needs to be able to utilize them and get rid of this Pokemon. At the moment, it's still sitting on the field, kind of enjoying itself. It's easily able to take a little bit of chip damage, but Aurelien decides to switch out that Salamence and bring Incineroar back in. So a lot of Intimidate going out throughout this game. It's something we've seen a lot throughout this season, and Cresselia as well deciding to leave. So Aurelien going for the double switch here and bringing in the Tapu Koko.
Yeah, so is Lee going to capitalize of that? Or is he just going to go for the fake out Ice Punch maybe? Because this was kind of an obvious switch out for Aurelien. And he goes for the Iron Head into the Tapu Koko, but...
Intimidate really pays off there. It barely, it doesn't even do half to that Tapu Koko. Even Incineroar trying to get it over that 50% threshold with a U-turn isn't able to do it. I think San might have to help out, be the third sort of attack on Tapu Koko in this turn, just to push it down into the yellow. But Incineroar able to leave the field and bringing Tyranitar back in, unintimidated now for Lee. Yeah,
and Tyranitar's again, it's in a decent spot. We already saw Salamence at really low health. And one Rock Slide might be able, with some Sand Chip, might also be able to take out the Tapu Koko here. So Lee's actually still in a really good position. But he needs to make sure his Tyranitar is actually faster than this Incineroar, because we saw that it has low kick, which could really threaten the Tyranitar. And I'm also assuming that we haven't seen a Z move from Lee yet, so maybe it's like a fast Dragon Dance Z move Tyranitar, some kind of set like that.
We have seen Dark EMZ in the past, so that could potentially be the option here, or maybe something a little bit radical, maybe Continental Crush or something like that. Yeah, that would just take down Salamence.
Yeah, it could really be. But yeah, at this point, you probably just want to go for a Rock Slide. And I think Aurelien is really struggling at the moment. We see him taking all his time because he has no good switches to that. He has his Cresselia switch in, but if he switches that in, it's not going to do anything back to this Tyranitar.
No, very true, but Lee's going to switch things up a little bit, brings in Tapu Fini to once again override the terrain, stopping the damage from Tapu Koko being as immense as Tapu Koko likes it to be. We might, however, see the Z move coming out here, or potentially Aurelien has decided to go for that Thunderbolt into that slot, catching Tapu Fini once again. Tyranitar, however, goes for a Protect, maybe predicting Z move coming its way. Cresselia obviously has switched in here. Tapu Koko, though, going for the Volt Switch, going to connect onto that Protect, so Tapu Koko's here to stay at the end of this game.
Yeah, so Lee maybe a little bit worried about potential fake out and maybe Dazzling Gleam or maybe the Z move into that Tyranitar. Just making sure that he keeps that alive, because that looks like his best win condition at the moment. He needs to make sure that this Tyranitar stays healthy. And Aurelien's still kind of in a tough position, because sure, you want to Volt Switch out of your Tapu Koko right now, but nothing in the back wants to take a Rock Slide, and nothing in the back can take a Rock Slide as well. And if you're Lee, you probably just want to go back into your Incineroar again, make sure you keep your own terrain to really prevent this Tapu Koko from doing a lot of damage.
Of course, and if you're Tyranitar as well, you might want to just get a little Dragon Dance up just to get your speed up a little bit so that you can threaten more with these Rock Slides. Tapu Fini, however, just going to go for a Protect. Tapu Koko clicking Volt Switch once again. This time gets it off, goes into Tyranitar. Still does a good little bit of chip damage there as it will return to Aurelien, and he's able to bring out potentially his Salamence to fire off and Intimidate here, or Incineroar. So either way, we're going to have Intimidate coming out across into this Tyranitar. So maybe this is the chance to go for that Dragon Dance. Just try and negate this Intimidate coming away from Incineroar, so that you can be dealing as much damage as possible.
No, I think if you're Lee right now, what you need is, because Aurelien can just keep on switching these Intimidates. Oh, we see the Z move finally.
It's the Dark EMZ.
It is, wow.
Yeah, this Tyranitar going to go on the offensive here. No Dragon Dances for it. It just wants to go and have the Black Hole Eclipse into Cresselia, I'm assuming.
It should be going into Cresselia here. There's no way you're gonna Z move the Tapu Koko there, especially with the potential Incineroar switch in. And yeah, we see it going into Cresselia, which should be able to take it down from here, I think.
Yeah, it does a huge amount of damage.
Even with it's not.
Oh my gosh, no, it lives on what looked like 1 HP, and thanks to the berry that it's holding, it's going to regain all of that health, so even the sand isn't going to be able to help take down that Cresselia. Going for an Icy Wind, having survived that Z move, I'm going to now lower the speed of both Tapu Fini and Tyranitar. What is with these top 8, top 4 games survival clutches?
Yeah, that's crazy. But the really interesting part now is that the Tyranitar is actually Icy Winded, so Incineroar could just go for a low kick here. And if you're Lee, you probably just want to switch out the Tyranitar again, keep the sand up. But I'm really not sure why he didn't just go for the Rock Slide, because Cresselia wasn't really the threat at all, and I think he just needed to make sure that he got rid of the Salamence or the Incineroar, like based on which one would switch in. But I'm expecting just him to go for a potential Muddy Water and a switch out into his own Incineroar, as we see now.
That's exactly what we see. It's like Lee knew you were saying it, Rob. Incineroar's joined the field, going to fire off another Intimidate. Once again, these Incineroars just wanting to lower the attack stat of the Ulla, trying to prove which one is the best here in top 4. As Cresselia goes for a Helping Hand, though, however, going to negate that Intimidate and leave this Incineroar to go for some huge damage. But Muddy Water first coming out from Tapu Fini, connecting on both of these Pokemon, going to actually pick up the KO on Incineroar, so it's unable to move. Does get a critical hit, and I think you said it was the potentially Assault Vest variant.
Yeah, so that might have mattered.
Yeah,
not sure about that damage roll there. Especially if he went for that Helping Hand low kick, then Incineroar is not really a great switching into that at all, especially Helping Handed. So potentially unfortunate for Aurelien, but I'm not sure at all, because it was already at really low health. So at this point, yeah. So he loses one Intimidate. He only has Salamence now left, and I think if you're Lee, you gotta keep making sure that everything next to this Cresselia kind of chips away. And if you look at Aurelien's time as well, it's getting kind of low here.
Yeah, I mean, it was Lee who actually had the timeout earlier on, but I feel like he's sort of learned that lesson, and he's now picking his moves a little bit quicker. And now, in general, the My Time is below 1 minute for Aurelien. So Lee, potentially, if that's something he can clock onto, that's a strategy he can go through to keep himself in the set, if he's unable to do it with Pokemon, that is.
Yeah, and I think Aurelien is just going low in time this time, because he realized that he's kind of in trouble, especially against this Tyranitar. So I'm not sure if time is in the end really gonna matter. And Lee just sends in his own Tyranitar there, in the top of finish slot. And did Aurelien go for like a helping hand Gigavolt into that slot?
We'll have to see. No, just to protect though, Tapu Koko going on the defensive here as Tyranitar has joined the field once again. Fake out from the Incineroar going into that protect. So a really nice opportunity there for Lee to sort of utilize the ball positioning there with the fake out and the switch. But he will catch the Icy Wind on his Tyranitar. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so Lee's Tyranitar is again in a good spot. But the one thing though is he still doesn't want to take a helping hand Gigavolt for sure, because you want to keep your Tyranitar alive as good as possible. But then if you're Aurelien, you're probably gonna switch. Lee's probably gonna switch out into Tapu Fini. So I'm assuming that he's gonna go for a Volt Switch into Incineroar and just try to get his Tapu Koko in a position where he can actually be able to pick up a KO on this Tyranitar, but potentially helping hand Gigavolt. Because I think that's his only way really to be doing damage to this Tyranitar at the moment.
Well, Tapu Fini rejoining once again. This is something we've consistently seen Lee do when Tapu Koko's on the field, maybe threatening that Gigavolt Havoc. He wants to switch in Tapu Fini and override the terrain just to negate some of the damage. And I think third time he's done it in this set. Finally, the Gigavolt Havoc is coming out from Tapu Koko.
Yeah, but no helping hand, weirdly enough.
No support from Crest.
No, that's really interesting. And I'm not sure why he didn't go for the helping hand there. Because that's going to be a lot of less damage, especially with the sand and the misty terrain. So Tyranitar should be able to hang on from that. And we're going to see how much damage it's going to do to this Tyranitar.
Like you were saying, particularly with Sandar, the special defense is going to be raised, and it takes down to 53 hit points, but easily sort of surviving in there, and also manages to avoid this Icy Wind. So this Tyranitar really, really working hard for Lee in this game.
Yes, I'm wondering, I don't think it was just maybe out of helping hand range as well. And now the Rock Slide, is it going to connect?
Yes, it does connect. You finally get to see that Rock Slide, and it will be enough to pick up the KO on Tapu Koko as well, and leaving Crest right down into the red, where the sand is going to be able to assist here in the next couple of turns.
Yeah, and I think at this point, Lee's probably going to be able to take this game, especially with the Tapu Fini healing it very. Aurelien's going to be really making some bold moves in order to come back from this game, but at the same time, we already saw that his timer was running really low. We don't have a fuel on his timer right now, but I'm assuming that it's about 20 seconds, so either one of the... Oh, it's 12 seconds even, and both of these Pokemon are really low, so if you're Lee, with the sand damage even, all you have to do is just go for Protect, switch in Incineroar, go for Fake Out, and I don't think there's anything I really could do at this point, and I think he recognizes this.
Yeah,
the handshake is coming out. He's still going to play it out though, just to see what happens. Maybe he gets some more information potentially. But yeah, it looks like we're going into Game 3 soon.
Yeah, we certainly are. Very, very excited to have a Game 3 here in top 4. Cresselia this time, though, going for the helping hand, wants to help out his buddy Salamence in these last couple of moments of Game 2 in top 4. As Salamence goes for a return, going to target down that Tapu Fini. Is it enough to pick up the KO? It's not. It takes it down to 16. So Aurelien just maybe getting a little bit more information on what damage rolls and calculations he's got, so we can utilize all this information and take it into Game 3. He's fighting for a place in the Grand Finals here in Sheffield. You want to have all the information resources you can get. Yeah, exactly. I want to point out that it's kind of interesting that we saw Game 1, we saw Aurelien dominate, and now we're actually going to see Lee, I think, pick up a 4-0 victory here, and it is actually going to be a victory on time here, which we haven't seen yet. Not that it was going to matter in the end. Lee already had to win in his back, but it's good for Aurelien to realize that, ooh, I took a little bit too much time maybe. So I really have to be careful in going into the next rounds, going into the next game actually. Just watch your timer, make sure you're not going across your... Yeah. I think Lee is a little lesson to us all though. We had that game where he timed out, he saw his head in his hands, and he was very lucky to get that double protect, but it could easily have gone a different way, and he wouldn't still be sitting here in top 4. Yeah. So keep an eye on your timer, that's wise advice. Yeah, now we're going into really interesting Game 3, because we saw Aurelien switch it up in Game 2, and it did not work out at all. And we thought Lee was maybe not in the best position lead-wise, but I think just the pressure from that Tyranitar, because if you look at Aurelien, he's really going to struggle doing damage to the Tyranitar. He's got the low kick on Incineroar, but Incineroar is slower than Tyranitar. He takes super effective damage from Rock Slide. Salamence doesn't want to take a Rock Slide either. Very true. And with the sand, with the Misty Terrain, these Gigavolts from Tapu Koko are not going to be able to do too much as well. So I think, yeah, Lee really has to play around like with the Tyranitar like he did in Game 2. Really preserve it, make sure that it keeps alive for an entire game.
to do the things that he needed it to do.
And we know it's got the Z move for that Cresselia as well now, so if you can use that on Intimidated, it's going to do so much damage.
Yeah, definitely. Unintimidated should probably pick up the KO there.
Yeah, it's probably trained it just for Cresselia.
But we saw from Aurelien already, like, his Cresselia is really bulky. I'm pretty sure that there's like no special attack, no speed investment. The way it took like a lot of these attacks in this regional, it's one of the bulkiest Cresselias that we've seen here. And he's locked in already, and Lee's still figuring out what to do.
Yeah,
and I think if you're Aurelien, maybe you have kind of the urge to go back to your Snorlax mode.
Yeah, I would love to see Snorlax back here again. It really helped Aurelien take that game 1 here. And as well, we sort of mentioned he's got the low kick on his Incineroar that can take down Lee's Tyranitar, but the problem with Incineroar is the amount of times to switch it out and back in, just to sort of utilize that Intimidate, reset the Intimidate on it. It doesn't really get the chance to be the most offensively threatening all the time, particularly if you're playing someone like Lee, who's doing exactly the same strategy.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that you're slower than Tyranitar as well, of course.
Exactly. Don't want to take those rock slides at all, but Aurelien still not bringing Snorlax out in his lead. Maybe it's in the back, we'll have to see, but it is going to be Incineroar and Tapu Koko versus the Metagross and Incineroar on Lee's side. So this is Game 3, top 4. At the end of this, we're going to have a finalist.
Yeah, and we're again going into Game 3, just showing how close all of these matches have been, and it's really intense here. And I think if you're Aurelien, what I'm assuming now is that maybe he didn't bring the Cresselia, because we saw he barely did anything in Game 2. He got off some icy winds, but the thing is, if you look at Lee's team, he's got the dual dark type. He's got a Metagross, which,
and
all of these Pokemon basically wall Cresselia completely. And Lee's got the bulk as well, that these icy winds don't necessarily matter that much. We saw that Salamence is actually faster than Metagross. Tapu Koko is faster than Metagross already, and so like Aurelien doesn't really need the speed control either. So this turn I'm just going to assume we're going to see some fake outs. Maybe Lee's going to want to reposition his Metagross, because it doesn't want to take a Giga Havoc, of course. And the interesting part is that Aurelien's Incineroar is going to be faster than Lee's Incineroar. So we could be going for a fake out into the Incineroar and a Gigavolt into the same slot.
Actually, we're going to see Thundurus join the field here. I was going to say it's going to be a Tapu Fini switch in like he's been doing all the time. But no, Thundurus is going to join the field, which is going to threaten that Tapu Koko, sort of negating some of the attacks there. But it's going to be protects all round from the Metagross and the Tapu Koko as Incineroar goes for a fake out into the protect there. So sort of just a turn of a little bit of ball positioning and the nice reveal from Lee.
Really interesting turn there, because if you're Lee, what you kind of wanted that you didn't protect. Because the interesting part about Stomping Tantrum mechanics is if you get flinched, the next turn your Stomping Tantrum is boosted. So that would have been able to knock out the Incineroar there. So that's kind of a risky play from Aurelien to go for the fake out into the Metagross, because you're basically boosting it. But Lee's in a really good position now. You got the Thundurus, and we know it's Scarf, and really threatening this Tapu Koko, which is why Aurelien's switching it out, and he did bring the Snorlax.
Yeah, he's brought that Snorlax. This pal that got him Game 1 is back for Game 3, and now Lee needs to figure out if he's got a way to shut this Snorlax down. Bringing in your fake out Pokemon is a very good way to sort of do that, and getting one Intimidate off here. Not going to matter too much if he does click Belly Drum, but at least you can stop it with potentially fake out, or even just go for that knockoff and get rid of that berry. Snorlax going to have a little bit of chip with a poison from that Thundurus. That's another way to shut down Snorlax. Poison it, whittle away at its health. Going to have to take a knockoff in return though, taking off the Choice Scarf. But in a way, that lets Thundurus now utilize all of its different moves. It doesn't have to be locked into Sludge Bomb going forward. If it's got something for Incineroar, it can go for that. If it wants to shake things up, it's also got that option.
Yeah, an interesting part about this Snorlax, of course, it doesn't have Recycle. So this poison might actually matter more than it seems right now. It seems just like a little bit of chip damage, but this Snorlax is not the kind of Snorlax that can just recycle whenever it wants. It really needs to stay healthy. And at this point, I don't think you can really safely go for a Belly Drum anymore, especially with the potential knockoff from the Incineroar on Lee's side. And the way Aurelien's been playing this, I'm assuming that it's not going to be an Amoonguss in the back, but maybe a Salamence.
Well, he's bringing that Tyranitar, his partner Pokemon that got him Game 2, is back. So both of these players have brought the Pokemon, sort of championed them into this Game 3. Both going to face off against each other. Aurelien getting a Snorlax out of there, though, knowing that that poison is potentially going to sort of be detrimental to whatever strategy he was going for. And he brings in his own Tapu Koko. Knockoff coming, though, from his Incineroar into the other one, knocking off the Figgy Berry. So it won't have access to that HP recovery as the knockoff goes into Tapu Koko. We know it's holding the Sea Crystal, so can't knock off an item. And if Snorlax had stayed in, it would have lost its berry, which it so needs right now.
Yeah. And Lee just switches out his Thundurus in the right time again, because if you're Aurelien, Game 2 and Game 1, you were really confident about going for Gigavolt whenever you wanted, but you can't Gigavolt into the Thundurus, you're just going to heal it. And so that's really, you really got to keep that in mind. You really got to be worried about that as well. So you're not going to be able to just go for that Z move really freely anymore. And this Tyranitar is again in a good position here. But I wouldn't be surprised if Aurelien tries to maybe get off this cheeky low kick this time.
Yeah, it would be nice to see Incineroar finally get that move off into Tyranitar. We can see that it so desperately wants to do that.
Yeah.
But it does keep having to be switched out just for that ball positioning in the aim game that Aurelien is clearly looking for. But Lee, maybe knowing that, might switch out his Tyranitar and protect it. But first of all, the switch is going to be from Tapu Koko, bringing in Salamence to get off and intimidate. Both Incineroar and Tyranitar, high physical attackers, don't want to be taking this, and it's going to start negating damage that this Tyranitar could be dealing out. But if it's gone for something like a Rock Slide, it hasn't, but Rock Slide could have, hurt both of these Pokemon, but instead just going to protect itself from that low kick that you mentioned, Rob.
Yeah, exactly. And Incineroar just going to go for a Flare Blitz into this Tapu Koko. And the interesting part there is we didn't see a Volt Switch from Aurelien because he was just too worried about that potential Tapu Koko. Oh, and we see the burn on Salamence.
Oh, Lee's Pokemon really putting in all the effort here just to get the extra mile, gets a poison, get a burn. Heartbreak for Aurelien. You see his head in his hands.
Oh, he's really worried about that. And not only did he get the poison on his Snorlax first, but the burn on the Salamence might be even bigger because we know that this is a physical Salamence and it really wants to set up. And with the burn, these Earthquakes are not going to be doing anything to this Tyranitar at all.
No, and he hasn't brought Cresselia to use Helping Hand or anything.
No, exactly. So he's in a lot of trouble at the moment. And Lee's playing this really well now. And I'm assuming that he potentially wants to bring in his Tapu Koko now again. It's Thunderous Fairy again. Maybe just go for Volt Switch, just recycle, intimidate a little bit. But he's got to protect his Tyranitar from low kick for sure.
Yes, well, Thunderous has come in, so he's taken out that Intimidate option to bring it back later on. No Tapu Koko on the field here, but still, Lee feels confident enough to bring Thunderous. It doesn't have its Choice Scarf, so it will be that little bit slower in that regard, but it does have access to switch up its moves if it does want to. Salamence going for the Dragon Dance, though. Aurelien really wants the Salamence try and boost itself back up so it still can be some kind of offensive threat on the field here. But the speed as well, that's going to certainly help him out. As Tyranitar goes for the Rock Slide, connects on both of Aurelien's Pokemon, does such good damage. It gets the same type of attack bonus that Landorus doesn't get from Rock Slide. However, it's going to have to take a low kick finally from Tyranitar. From Incineroar, does manage to survive though, taking it down into the yellow HP.
Yeah, but he already took a lot of damage, and both his Pokemon Aurelien with that Rock Slide. And yeah, with the Snorlax in the back, with the poison as well, it's going to be really tough for him to win this game at this point. The interesting part now, though, is this Salamence going to be faster than this Thunderous at the moment? Because oh no, the Storage Scarf has already been knocked off. So this Salamence is definitely going to be faster, but
is it going to be threatening?
A burnt Salamence, I don't think that's going to be able to KO the Salamence with Earthquake at all, and I'm just going to assume there's going to be another Rock Slide and a potential double KO.
Yeah, that could easily be the case. Or an Intimidate user could come back in. That's exactly what's happened. Incineroar's jump back in. Tyranitar maybe just wanting to reset its Intimidate so it can use Rock Slide again later on. Whereas Lee just ensuring that, adding insult to injury a little bit here with the Salamence. It's already burnt, but now he's just going to negate all of these Dragon Dances, making sure that it cannot be a threat to his team. As Aurelien is forced to bring in his Tapu Koko as well. Getting that terrain back up, though, for it so it can get a little bit more damage out of its Electric-type attacks. But it does have Thunderous on the field here that it does also have to worry about. Salamence going straight for a Protect, not wanting to take any Rock Slides from the Tyranitar that was originally in there. As Volt Switch comes out from Thunderous, going into Tapu Koko, Electric Terrain helping out a little bit there. It's shooting back to Lee, and he's able to now bring in another Pokemon, just completely switch up his ball positioning. I think that's something Lee has done so well in this game. Yeah,
unfortunately Electric Terrain is not really helping, because Thunderous is a flying type, but it still did a lot of damage. So I'm assuming that's like a modest, really offensive Thunderous Therion there. And he brings out his Tyranitar again, but it's kind of an interesting position here. On the other hand, I think this is really a safe turn. Just go for the Fake Out into Tapu Koko. Maybe he even wants to set up his Dragon Dance, or if he can just go for a Rock Slide as well. Incineroar, if he switches in, should be going down to that Rock Slide. And Snorlax is going to be able to proc its Berry, and we already saw that it didn't have Recycle, so it basically stops Snorlax from ever setting up that Belly Drum again. That's a really tough position for Aurelien, because he already protected his Salamence, so he has to do something at this point.
He does, and that Salamence is on such borrowed time with Sand and the Burn chipping away every single turn. It's got no option for recovery. It's just literally not going to be able to do too much for him thanks to that Burn. Even with the limited time he's got left, there's no offensive pressure coming out from it. Incineroar sort of celebrating a little bit there. It's so proud that it managed to burn that Salamence and to take this through for Lee, but you can see Aurelien, again, still using all of his time, trying to think what way out he has got. No Protects, though. Incineroar going for the Fake Out, going to go into Tapu Koko. As Salamence goes for a return, so still trying to prove that it's in this and does some good damage there to the Incineroar, actually. As Tyranitar goes for Rock Slide, does connect. Lee's favorite Pokemon here, going to pick up 2 KOs for him.
Yeah, that's really big. And at this point, it's going to be really tough for Aurelien at this point, I think. Maybe the Poison is going to be able to matter a lot, but on the other hand, Lee still has 4 Pokemon remaining, and I think without having Recycle on your Snorlax, it's going to be too hard to break through that entire core.
It's really rare to not have Recycle, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really weird. I guess it makes a lot of sense to have, like, if you have it next to Cresselia, you can Protect, you can Trick Room, and you can still Belly Drum. And I think Aurelien just felt like he needed the coverage of high horsepower with this team. But yeah, maybe he wanted another fighting type move maybe for this Tyranitar, because it's been proving to be a lot of issues for him. And at this point, if you're Lee, you probably just want to switch out your Incineroar, get a fake out pressure again later, and yeah, just go for Rock Slides here, because at this point you just need to keep doing damage, and I don't think Aurelien can out damage Lee.
Well, Tyranitar is going to switch out, going to reset the Intimidate it just took there. As Thunderous joins the field once again. That Pokemon that poisoned Snorlax earlier is back to taunt it once again. As Flare Blitz comes out from the Incineroar, going to go into the opposing Incineroar, do some good damage, but not enough to pick up the KO here. Will take some own damage in recoil as Incineroar here goes for knockoff. Going to actually, I believe, knock off that berry before Snorlax even gets to use it. It goes for a high horsepower into the flying type there, Thunderous. This poor Snorlax cannot catch a break in this game 3.
Yeah, and we saw Aurelien just miss the Flare Blitz KO onto that Incineroar. Maybe assuming, like I was, that Incineroar was going to switch out, hoping to capitalize on that, but it's not going to happen. And we see Lee take this game 3 in really convincing fashion, and well played to both players.
Huge congratulations. Yeah. I know Aurelien got a little bit unlucky in that game 3, but doesn't take away from the fact that Lee Provost is your first finalist here at the Sheffield Regional Championships.
Yeah, so we already have one UK player now in finals, and yeah, it's no other than Lee Provost.
On the home turf.
Yeah. And yeah, an interesting thing that I want to mention about Aurelien's team, I actually played the same 6 in a local tournament when I played him, and I was running Tyranitar as well. But at that point, he was running Brick Break on his Salamence, so he basically destroyed me turn 1 when he went for Helping Hand Brick Break with his Salamence on my Tyranitar. But unfortunately, it looks like he dropped it now for this tournament, and he went for Earthquake instead. And against Lee, that he just missed that.
How cool would that have been to reveal that?
Exactly, yeah. So I was kind of waiting for that reveal, but then he went for Earthquake, and I was like, ooh, so he may not have it at all. So it was really unfortunate, but yeah, these are the kind of meta calls that you maybe have to make. And I've talked a little bit to Aurelien, and he told me that, yeah, I don't think Tyranitar is going to be that popular. It's been slowing down a little bit. And yeah, it makes sense. You need to kind of go for that kind of meta call. You can't prepare for everything.
100%.
But I also want to give credit to Lee, because we saw in game 1 how he struggled a lot with the Snorlax mode, and he adjusted really well in game 2 and game 3. I think Aurelien saw as well with the Metagross Incineroar lead. He couldn't just really safely go for that Among Us Snorlax mode.
Very true.
So yeah, and he needed to adapt, and that was basically props to Lee for that, because he made sure that this Aurelien that he needed to adapt and change up his game plan.
And he just kept sort of stopping that Gigavolt Havoc from coming out straight away and sort of tried to shut it down as best he could. And at the end of the day, that's what makes a finalist here in Sheffield, and he's managed to make his way here. But huge congratulations to Aurelien as well. We featured him on stream so much, so I'm really happy we've been able to sort of showcase him as a player, and I'm sure he is a name we're going to see a lot more of, potentially going forward to lots of the other tournaments we're going to be streaming. So remember that name, don't forget it, and maybe go to locals with Rob and Aurelien and just see if you can take them on. But we will be we'll be grabbing Lee for a really, really quick interview before we do our next game. So don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to have an interview.
Welcome back, Pokemon fans, here at the Sheffield Regionals.
Hey, Lou,
2000.
you're a player today.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
you've gone to the dark side with your Tyranitar. I know you love casting with me, but we have Lee Provost here, guys, who just had an incredible top 4 game. He is our first finalist here in Sheffield. It goes without saying, you've been chasing Top Cut for a while. You've now made it to the grand finals. How are you feeling?
Just incredible. I can't really believe it, to be honest. It doesn't feel like it's actually really sunk in yet. Yeah, it's just I'm a bit overwhelmed at the minute. That last match was a bit crazy, and
it was very intense, particularly games 1 and 2. It was a bit of a slog with all of the board positioning. But there are a few things we want to talk to you about. First of all, game 1, that Snorlax gave you so much trouble. Didn't even have Mimikyu as a buddy anymore. It was just Snorlax there setting up Belly Drum. What were your thoughts once it was set up, turn 1, how you were going to counter it?
I just thought, oh, right, I've lost this game straight away. Let's try and get some information. To be fair to Aurelien, he set up so well that match, like perfect lead for him, really caught me off guard, and it was just on the back foot the whole time there, and I just couldn't get back into the game. I managed to kind of do stuff, but by the time I'd used the resources to get rid of the Snorlax, it was just too late, and fair play to him, and it really kind of put the scarers on me. Like going into that game 2 and 3, I had to kind of...
What you were going to do.
Yeah, keep that in mind as well, but you had all the other threats like the Salamence, the Coco, and, you know, it was like just trying to get a good balance, and that's it kind of worked out. Game 2 was a bit more of a slogfest.
What were you thinking then going into game 2? Obviously, Snorlax gave you such trouble. What was going through your head in terms of how am I going to counter it? Am I going to have to change things up completely, or what were you thinking?
Well, if you notice in game 1, his Incineroar outsped my Incineroar.
Yes, it was a speedy one.
So I was kind of assuming that it did outspeed her as a speed type, but I'm going to say it outsped mine. So he can pressure me with the fake out. So I wanted to put myself in a position with the Metagross. The Incineroar, we either trade fake outs that turn or I get some big damage onto the Snorlax, and I think that was like the best way going forward. And then from there I can try and switch my board positions around. I've got stuff like Tyranitar I can switch in to take those +6s. There's not many Pokemon that do. But still, thankfully, kind of he switched things up, which made it a little bit easier to kind of maneuver around. And yeah, it was a bit of a slogfest to game 2, but they're the kind of games I really like. It's like the board positioning,
intense, get you focused, and to be fair, it's a masterclass for people at home as well watching. They can sort of see it's not just things like sort of water beats fire and all of that. There's a lot of strategy going on. That was something I definitely loved from watching the streams back when I was like a fletchling out in Pokemon. But you mentioned Tyranitar. It's a Pokemon we know that you love personally, but it did so well for you in this game. And chatting to Rob, that Incineroar revealed low kick. That was obviously such a threat. But Rob's mentioned from the locals, Aurelien was actually running Brick Break Salamence for quite a while.
Wow.
But he's taken it off because he thought Tyranitar wasn't up on the rise. What were your thoughts about bringing Tyranitar to Sheffield?
It's just good, isn't it? You know, there's a lot of like Charizard. There's a lot of weather going around at the minute, and I always personally view T-Tar as like the best weather counter. It always has been since like back in my all-time days of like 2013 and stuff. It's always been a really reliable Pokemon. Gets the special defensive boost in the Sandstorm, and Cress is becoming a thing again.
It's been so popular in Sheffield. We've seen it constantly.
Yeah, so it just makes sense to have that kind of double dark core that I've got there. It just helps cover that a bit more, and obviously the rock slide's just
rock slide, isn't
awesome.
It? Yeah, I mean, I've got things about rock slide from Gigalith last year, but we saw you time out though as well. Time was a little bit of a feature, and I know it's something that all the UK crew have joked with you about, because you do like to take your time. But we're not going to take up too much more of yours now, but you do have a fortune cookie to open.
Oh.
You are our finalist. This might tell you more about what is going on. We have fortune teller Vaporeon here to interpret whatever mysterious message is inside.
I can't open it. Okay, what have we got, guys?
Let's have a look. Read your fortune out.
Fortune cookie time. Take your chance as long as you have the possibility.
So basically, don't time out.
Yeah, don't time out, guys.
Because otherwise you have no chance.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very fitting message. We're going to let you go and prepare for the finals, and, you know, best of luck. We'll have to find out who your finalist is very, very
Thanks,
shortly.
Lou.
Good to see you back on the casting desk, and don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to be right back for the final top 4 game.